I'm much more about trying to communicate ideas and trying to help people to like move away from bad ways of thinking and into good ways of thinking. I'm going to take a bit of time just to talk, and yes, it is about the key subject of this one particular channel, which is more about the the supernaturalism, the weird stuff, and all the rest of it. Because I'm coming from a particular point of view, and my point of view says that there is an objective force there. The reason I would say that is because my first experience of all this weird supernatural stuff was seeing a ghost at the age 4, and at the age 4 I didn't even know there was such a thing as ghosts, and you're 4 years old, what are you thinking about at the age 4 apart from playing with your toy cars in your bedroom? Okay, that's pretty much, or the most important thing in my life was playing with toy cars in my bedroom, and then I see this ghost looking like what I would now call would be a traditional grey lady. Alright, sort of like, you can see right through her, she's got like a veil and a bustle on, and seemed to be floating, you couldn't see the feet, and at the age 4, I mean, obviously that experience has had like a very profound impact upon me. Because on the basis that that was true, and a real genuine experience, that shows me that there must be an objective spiritual reality out there. Okay, the subsequent experiences I had when I started getting involved in magic and witchcraft and all that kind of fun stuff, that actually happened after I'd had the experiences of doing the chanting in my bedroom, and as a result of that created the terrifyingly accurate but very short, brief prophetic dreams about the future. And then I looked at that experience and I realized when I was going through my, as it were, magical training, that there were some key hallmarks to what I was doing which does seem to have some kind of impact upon things in the outer world. I was following essentially a formula for spellcasting, so to speak, without knowing anything about spellcasting, without knowing anything about what people have done and all this, that and the other. I wanted to find out. My motivation from my point of view was that I was and still am to a certain extent, very severe case of chronic fatigue syndrome. At that time in my life, in my late teens, I was aware of the passage of time, I was aware that there was a future there, I was aware I had to get well from my diseases, I was aware it had to be quick, otherwise my life would essentially be ruined. I go to a pub, I meet some people from wherever it was, and someone says you could buy books or magic in a bookshop. In a bookshop? You know, that boring place where they've got like Dickens and shit. I'm in my late teens, I don't really value Dickens all that much, if you know what I mean. So that's essentially where it started. And these books had this phrase in it, which I then heard re-echoed when I actually physically met people in the pagan community. Magic works. Obviously now I'm pushing 50, right? I look back on that one particular phrase in a very different way. I see it as being a thorn in the side of progress, to put it as politely as I possibly can. Let's just think firstly about the use of the words. I'm going to do this little diatribe first for just a few minutes, and then once that's done, then we'll go on to more real talk, shall we? Okay. For anything to be regarded as working, its result has to be specific, time-bound, measurable, reliable, and repeatable. Does that actually apply to magic and witchcraft and spiritual healing? Be honest. Not in the least. This is why I want you people to develop a new phrase. Magic is real, but it's not reliable. Because that is essentially the findings of the FBI and CIA when they were doing their experiments in the 60s and 70s, or whenever it was, when we were all a bit more freaky, and it was all a bit more fun, and people looked into this stuff more seriously. That's essentially what the officials have worked out. All right, they were hiring remote viewers and all kinds of stuff, and they were doing all these experiments, and there's a force there, but the reliability wasn't there. Obviously, the book by Isaac and Sargent, which was called Explaining the Unexplained, points out that the experimental design of those who've done proper, research into all kinds of stuff, including things like the radionic stuff, their experimentation and their methodology was either perfectly scientific or more than the standards of science in some cases. So that's interesting, but it's not really giving us a sense of how to understand the force, how to control the force, and how to make it actually have an effect. Where are we then? We're kind of like stranded, all right? There's routes that we can go down, little paths we can go down in our life, okay, to try and find more understanding or more ideas about these things. But each path and each route that we're going to take is going to possibly divert us off whatever was the original reason that they wanted to get involved with all this stuff. There is, from experience, a very real, very genuine force out there. But what is it? And how can it be experienced? And how can you reliably create these experiences? You can't. There will be times when you can and times when you can't. I'm visualizing this whole thing more like sport. If you've got a really, really good football team or a really, really good baseball team, okay, you've got top level athletes in it. And they go out there and, let's say for a couple of seasons, a couple of years, you know, they're winning each and every single match. All right, you'll think to yourself, yeah, that's it. You know, they're the best. They can do it. They are the ones who's always going to make it. And hey presto, you take a couple of £100 out of your bank account, you shove it on your football team, and then they lose. And you've lost your couple of £100. That's an example of you having built up faith as a result of regular experience over time, even to the point whereby you believe in the strength and power of that one particular football team or basketball team or baseball team, whatever it is you prefer. Then hey presto, something happens, there's another force happening, another team, different training methods, different ideas, you know, they develop their own tactics in different ways. Then hey presto, the board game, they change the environment, the world of nature around them has changed, and you don't get a reliable result. Dean Radin spoke of human skill in psychic type experiences being a bit like the batting average of a sportsman. You have good days and bad days, but they're kind of like moving in the right direction for you. And that's because human skill is variable. There must be ways in which we can improve upon this. There must be ways in which we can improve upon our thinking about this. And we must find ways of creating a culture of advancing human understanding. I mean, think about it. If you're going to have an entire school of thought which is dominated by potentially millions or even billions of people in the world, and this school of thought uses such strong language, what do you think is going to happen with the use of that language? Who is it going to affect? How is it going to affect them? You have to think about that ethically, morally, and of course scientifically. When I've come across people in the world of psychic research, they tend to look at these things scientifically. They tend to see the importance of the possibilities and the potential of psychic experience. When you come across someone who's involved in magic, it's not that way around. It's explained as a clear-cut thing, but not contained in a cult, but being held in place by a cultural norm based upon a falsehood. It's wrong. With the attitude of a psychic researcher, you would be better off as an entire world than with the attitude of a religious person. We want to think about the world now. We don't want to think about you. We want to think about the rest of the world, everybody else, thinking of others, and what good we could do for them in terms of the promises of magic, witchcraft, spiritual healing, and the rest. If there is a genuine force there, surely we need to learn to use it. In some respects, we run up with another problem, and that is, in some contexts, magic, occultism, supernaturalism, and spiritualism can become a self-defeating prophecy. Personal experience suggests that slightly anomalous states of mind can be useful in the creation of these experiences. My experience of seeing a ghost at the age 4 was brought about by malnutrition, allergies, whatever. Okay, so I was naturally, I don't know, open, slightly weird, slightly spiritual, slightly transcendental from birth. That's the way I was born, in that state of mind. And then it kind of like went away and came back and went away and came back at various different stages of my existence. My entrance into magic was more about trying to find a way of accessing it. What am I doing wrong to access this? To access this stuff, you need something which a person with a logical, rational mind will find difficult, or indeed in some cases impossible. The way that humans have traditionally created anomalous states of mind is through trance work, drugs, meditation, and the search for religious experience. But it's not just religious experience that you would require, but the actual experiences of some of the forces in question to give you personally that little, oh, there's something there kind of feeling, and then an interest to move forward. The analytical state of mind does not permit you that. The atheistic state of mind naturally doesn't. But on the other part of the spectrum, the religious fundamentalists may have some access to the force, but they're not thinking things through because they're dominated by their dogma. The Wiccans and all those involved in the magical community are also not thinking because of their dogma of it works, it works, it works, not let's try and understand this. Let's try and learn how to explain this. This is a natural force, just a natural force. We've got to learn how to use this effectively. These cultures are somehow important. Some of their ideas are important to them because it helps them stay together as cultures. But there's no real sense of progression further than that. And instead, it seems like the progression of different interpretations of spiritual or religious understanding, or the lack thereof, which appears to be of greater importance to people. Why? That's politics. As far as I'm concerned, when politics gets in the way of science, then it's bad, okay? And that's essentially what's happening. You know, this whole culture of supernaturalism as opposed to skepticism and all the rest of it are not about finding the truth. None of them are. They're about promoting an ideology and an interpretation of the way the world works. Some of which is right, some of which is wrong. Many of my personal experiences suggest that the body of knowledge called science today, but on the physical sense, physical and in my case is medical sense, because I experiment with my body using alternative health stuff a lot, is also not sufficiently advanced and actually has inaccuracies in it. When we use the phrase science, one of its interpretations is body of knowledge. What is a body of knowledge? It's from here going backward, okay? But it's not only from here going backward, all right? It's histories written by the winners, okay? So this is all the history written by the winners, leading to a certain explanation that we're given in the here and now. So that goes with occultism, magic, spiritual healing, radionics, that goes with acupuncture, acupressure, whatever. Okay, that becomes, those are the accepted things that we're told. Also with physics, chemistry, biology, quantum physics, and all the other fun stuff which is out there in the world. That's up to here and now, all right? But it's not what's next. And it's not everything else which is true in the here and now, which all of the body of knowledge hasn't actually got any knowledge of. So therefore we have to ask ourselves what we are doing when we're looking at the history, when we're looking at the ideas that other people have had, and the cultural forces which have driven those things into existence. Let's just say about the here and now, okay? The here and now and the way it is. The Wiccan religion, which I actually think is quite good if it, the culture can change it. I like it. I want it there. I want it to grow, okay? But I'm not one of it, if you know what I mean. That's got a lot of its traditions from ceremonial magic, and ceremonial magic was predominantly based upon the Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key of Solomon was a hoax. But there's these people who are here today who are saying that if they practice some of these things, that something seems to happen. Suggesting to me that the culture of the traditions of magic is wrong, and that the experimenters in the here and now today are having some variety of spiritual, psychic, or energetic experiences as a result of doing stuff in the here and now today, therefore working with whatever is within the body, the mind, the energy field, the chakras, the whatever is going on, right? The reality, the energetic reality, the what the heck it is reality. We don't, there's too many questions about it. We don't know. It's like an objective spiritual force which has an objective reality in the real world. But we find it difficult to access it. It doesn't really matter whether your traditions are based upon a hoax. What matters is that you're in the here and now, experiencing the reality of the here and now and the phenomena of the here and now as well. So therefore it's not about tradition, it's all about what is the truth about specific aspects of force. And also the other thing which is like really putting a spanner in the engine right now is that a lot of these magical and energetic communities have aspects of them which are elaborations or are there to get your attention, and some of them are false experiments which just don't really make any sense, but those are there to just try and get your attention. But because people focus on these experiments that people have done, many of which have truth in it, some of which have falsehoods in it, they're running with that rather than working out how to actually work out what is true and what is decent and what is useful and what is practical and what could actually fulfill the promises of magic. Okay, the promises of the power of prayer. What is the power of prayer? Do people actually know? No, they just have theologies associated with it. They just have religion. They have religious interpretations. But is that necessarily right or is that necessarily wrong? Taking into account you need to enter into a spiritual state of mind which is quite transcendental and rather weird in order to do some weird stuff, then yes, it will make some sense that it is important to use religious language as a means of helping people to reach that state of being. That's the key. But not to the point whereby it becomes a dogma and an expression of truth and therefore a revealed religion. Because that stops people from thinking and experimenting and growing. But the whole thing about the revealed religions and the cultures these days is that it's all about the control of the mind and the attitudes and the beliefs. But the idea that people have heard some information and they've kind of not just run with it, but accepted it to be the truth. And then feel that they can politically go around telling people that that's the case, or that there's something in the COVID-19 tests kits which is supposed to kill you, and it's even written on the box somewhere. Okay, here's the fucking box, where is it? Oh, some people say, Nick, are you despairing of humanity sometimes? I'm saying, no, I despair of humanity all the time. What are you thinking? Okay. But then there's the attitude of learning and how we go through the process of learning about these things. And maybe therefore it is important for there to be these various different cultures in the world so we can move between them through the journey of our lives and build up a better level of knowledge and understanding. But often that's not what we want. What we're looking for is something that works, really, isn't it? All right? You're not going to find that in magic. All right? I mean, yes, I've had some fun experiences. I did, for a laugh, I did one night, I just did the traditional stuff with green candles. I'll have a day of prosperity tomorrow and all that, and all it's going to be great. And yeah, I did have a very successful day at work the following day. It was a very nice, very good day. But can I objectively say that there was a direct connection between the two? And if I hadn't done that ritual, that I wouldn't have had a successful day? Or was that day purely based upon chance? And how are you supposed to assess what is based upon chance and what is based upon you putting that force in? Now, when I went to college, we did statistical analysis as part of sociology and psychology. And obviously the teacher said, the thing which blew the student's mind, which didn't blow my mind, because I've been sitting down having a cup of coffee and thinking about these things all by my little self, that science doesn't actually say what's true. Science never says what's true. Science doesn't say what's true. Science says what's most likely to be true under specific circumstances. And you have to use statistical tests of significance to try and work out whether the thing you're testing is likely to be significant. Okay? And that's similar to pharmacological experimentation and physical sciences and all sorts, in different contextual ways for the particular forces that they're looking at. You personally, with your personal experience, how could you do that? Okay, how could you do sufficient numbers of experiments in the right way and have all the right forces in place and have a control condition and the rest of that, when what you're doing is sitting cross-legged in your bedroom, meditating, trying to do ascension and trying to generate spiritual experience? I don't think you can. Right? I don't think that we can apply the same tests of significance. So therefore we've always got in a position of having more questions than answers. And yes, we can't always use that kind of statistical test method for everything. Sometimes you do have to just look at people's observations and experiences and see what's happened there. But in doing so, we've got to mentally make sure we're not falling into the trap of believing everything that they say and to see that everything that they say is the truth, because basically it isn't.